Hey, good morning and welcome to Business Basics. My name is Lee Iben. I'm the firm owner with ActionCOACH Campus here in Iowa City. And my special guest today, I'm so glad she's here, is Betsy with Heartland Yoga. But it's not just yoga. So Betsy, welcome and tell us all about what's happening at Heartland Yoga and especially this crazy year of 2020.
Thank you very much. And I have to tell you, as you were doing your introduction, it changed to my iPod, my AirPods. So I missed your whole introduction, but thank you for whatever.
It was glowing, Betsy. When you hear the
Okay.
playback, you're going to love it. You really will.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here today. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, sure. So now Heartland Yoga, was that your first passion when you opened your business? Was it yoga first, then psychology, or the other way around?
No, it was absolutely the other way around. So I got my PhD in counseling psychology from the University of Iowa about 17 years ago. 2003 is when I graduated. And I started work at the university. I was a pain psychologist for a couple of years in the orthopedics department.
Okay.
And then went into private practice. So that was really my first foray into being an entrepreneur and being a business person. And I worked in a healing center where everyone was sort of their own individual business owner, but we all shared rent and shared a receptionist. And so I was in private practice. Well, I still am in private practice. I still maintain that business. But I will tell you that shortly after I got my PhD, I became a little disillusioned with my field very quickly, which was problematic since I'd spent 7 years getting the degree and a lot of money.
Right. Yes.
But my realization came in that as I was working with people who had anxiety and depression, and my specialty area was always health psychology. So
Okay.
I like to work with people who have physical health disorders that are not always well treated with Western medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I became disillusioned is I realized that as a PhD psychologist, I've been trained to work with people's beliefs and their thoughts and their feelings, but I had no training in working in their bodies. And I had this suspicion that we were carrying a lot of trauma and intensity in the body. And yet my profession really, it actually taught me to stay away from the body. Like you're a head doctor, you don't work with the body. So this sort of, I would say dark night of the soul early in my career.
Okay.
Sort of drew me into this world of yoga. And I had been doing yoga as a grad student because I was stressed out. And yoga at that time has not reached the zenith where it is now. So there were very few yoga studios, very few yoga teachers. But I found a really great teacher and started to study it and realized that this 2,500-year-old discipline, yoga, was very similar to psychology because it was all about teaching people how to have a healthy mind. So I was thinking yoga was about down dog and making a strong body and a flexible body. And I realized, no, this is a discipline for the mind. So I, as I always do, deep dive into the material. And so then spent another probably 10 years, Lee, really, studying all around the country with very well-known yoga teachers, really honing and learning about this, way to help people with their minds. And now what I'm doing is truly integrating the world of yoga with the world of psychology. But,
Very cool.
I entered it first and foremost as a psychologist. Now, if someone says to me, is your primary job as a yoga teacher? I might say, yeah, I might not correct them. I mean, I feel like I do both of them, but my real work is to be a bridge between these two disciplines. So now
Wonderful.
I have not only my private practice as a business, but I started a yoga studio 13 years ago, this spring. And originally they were two separate businesses. So I would go in the morning in yoga clothes and teach a yoga class. And then I would go change my clothes into psychologist clothes and go next door to my private practice and do psychology. And there came a point 7 years ago that I really kind of got the instinct that these two go together. I need to do them together. So I moved my practice into my studio. So I have an office now in my studio and I do them really, they're very integrated now.
Right. And it doesn't matter what clothes you wear, right, Betsy?
And no, and now I'm usually barefoot all the time while I teach yoga and also while I see clients. And I love that.
Well, but you can't separate the two. You just can't. Right. And for so many years we try to, and we can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think go ahead.
Well, I was
just saying
our
culture. Yeah.
Yeah, no, please.
No, I think our culture has separated them. So, my husband is a medical doctor and he never learned about the mind in all of his training. And
Isn't
I'm
that
a
interesting?
mind doctor and I never learned about the body. And so you see how culturally and just how our systems are set up is that there aren't people who are helping people connect the two and realize when you have physical symptoms, there's always an emotional, mental piece. And
For
likewise,
sure.
when you have depression, there's always some physical something in the body that you're also dealing with. So I feel like we need practitioners who really are willing to bring the two together.
Right. It's the whole package, as we say,
Yeah.
right? It has
Yeah.
to, but it has to be, Betsy. It really
Yeah.
does. All
Yeah.
right. So now 2020, you have you've witnessed firsthand this shift. Okay. I'm guessing yoga studio is virtual, right? So there's that
Yes.
separation, but as a psychologist, right? As far as
Yeah.
people needing to talk about
Yeah.
things. Tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So 2020, interestingly enough, I had a sense at the end of 2019 that I wanted. So I actually do quite a bit of traveling because I'm a fairly niched professional. As
Hmm.
you can imagine, there are about 4 or 5 other people I know in the country who are both sort of PhD psychologists and yoga teachers that are doing this integration work. So I'm one of just a handful. So I teach at a lot of yoga festivals and I've lectured at the medical school about this. So I'm writing a book on it right now.
Good.
But at the end of 2019, I had a sense that I teach a lot of workshops on this locally, but I had a sense I need to get online
Hmm.
because this work is pretty unique and niched, but people need this right now. But I didn't have the business acumen or the understanding or even just the vision of like, how do I take these workshops that I've researched and that I've written about and that I teach locally, how do I put them online and reach a bigger audience? So I had wanted to do this and decided that I would hire a business coach. So I hired a coach out of, I think she's in California,
Hmm.
and she had a 6-month program that really was all the nuts and bolts about how you not only put a course online, but you market it, you sell it, you increase your email list, all of that.
Good.
So it was a big investment of money. And so I really hesitated, and I think I also, to be honestly, hesitated because there was a part of me that was very fearful of getting more public, right? Like I
Hmm.
do this work, I know that I know my stuff, I'm good at what I do. And yet there was this fear of like the wide world web and like, I don't know if I'm ready to like get my work out there. What if people don't like it? So
Right.
I can now acknowledge that there was some part of me that was sort of holding back from with some fear,
Hmm.
but I did it. I hired her. I started with her January 2020. And
Okay.
so there were some coaching calls with her. She had a whole online library that I was watching videos.
Right.
And I decided that I was going to start to market and promote this course that I've taught live many times in February and start it in early April. And my course is called Remind. It's an
Hmm.
8-week course based on the literature, based on the scientific literature that's been looking at why yoga is such a benefit for our mental and physical health.
Hmm.
So I'm taking very sort of scientific ideas and making them into really like clear cut. These are the 6 qualities, the things you need to work with, which is breath and being in the present moment and working in your body. So working with your nervous system. So I teach a lecture. It's a 90-minute class. I teach a lecture for 30 minutes. And then we do like an hour long embodied practice. So this is the 8-week course that I
Right.
created. So I started to market it and learned this nurture email sequence where you start to send out emails and nurture your
Yes.
community. And COVID hit. But I was starting to nurture and get these emails sent out mid-January. And
Okay.
I sent out my first nurture email with a video. And I remember telling my husband, I'm terrified. Like, I can't believe how terrifying this is to put this out there. Like, I don't know why I'm so terrified, but I am. But the amazing thing is just the synchronicity of all of this because I'm putting out these emails, truly just giving people useful information from my knowledge base. And COVID hits, and I'm hearing back from people like, thank you, thank you, thank you. So COVID forced me to like burn through my fear of being seen and
Hmm.
recognized as an expert, because I was getting all this info, all these emails from people like, thank you so much. I can't believe how much you're helping me.
Right.
So the timing was perfect. I filled the course. I got 100 people to take the course.
Wow. Good
And
job.
yeah, way more than I expected. But I just think the timing of all of this was so necessary, right? Like on some level, intuitively, I believe that maybe I knew that the culture was going to need this, and I stepped up and am continuing to step up in a new way. So I would say my business has exploded
Yes.
because of this, but it's also because of my, desire to like really move online. And then, of
Hmm.
course, we were all forced to go online, but I'd have this like pre-training on how to do it, which was helpful.
That's fantastic. That's great. And the other side of the business, the psychology side,
Yeah.
how has that been impacted?
Well, I have to say, yes, I tend to already have quite a waiting list of people, because what I do is so niched. I do very
Hmm.
mind body focused therapy, and I definitely integrate yoga, meditation into the work I do with people. So I already have a lot, because there are not, it's not a common sort of thing that people do. I have usually a lot of people already, but yeah, the waiting list has just increased. But it's also a balance point for me. So I'm seeing all my clients online, and
Hmm.
definitely have had way more people reaching out wanting to, work with psychotherapy. I do think COVID has been like I've called it sort of like a pressure cooker. So
Right.
issues that people haven't dealt with in the past are now like coming to the surface because of the extra stress, because of living at home with your family nonstop, because of the pressures of this time. So I see a lot of stuff, really surfacing for people, and people need help with it. But for me, I'm just one person. And so balancing this new world of being online and teaching online and doing workshops online and sending emails online with literally seeing people via Zoom, it's a lot.
Right.
Plus, my three kids have been at home
Yeah.
because of COVID, so I'm now a school teacher as well. So it's been it's been probably busier than ever for me. I have a friend who said, "Oh, I love COVID. Like my whole world is slowed down, and I just like I needed the space." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, my whole world is sped up. I don't have a commute
Hmm.
anymore, but I feel busier than ever." But it's
Right.
it's an okay thing.
No, it is. And it's so much of what we talk about, Betsy, is mindset. It really,
Yeah.
we have to put ourselves in the right place mentally first. A-
Yes.
And it is, I guess, like you, I've spoken to people who are just very, very nervous about COVID-19 and the uncertainty of the world around us. And others are completely at peace. And
Yeah.
it's mindset.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's so much
Absolutely.
of what you work with on such a regular basis with so many people is just kind of helping them sort through the clutter, right? Or make
Yeah.
sense of it anyway, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and you're packed, and your inventory as a business owner is your time, and
Yes.
and your inventory is all spoken for at this point.
Yeah. Well, and I would say I've noticed too that there is a different fatigue factor doing things online than doing things in
Hmm.
person. So I've noticed if, maybe I could see 15 clients in person, it feels to me more like now I can see 10, because there's not the same exchange of energy when you're on Zoom. I mean, it's
Right.
great. Like I really still feel like the work is very effective via Zoom, which I'm grateful for. But
Yes.
I feel more fatigued, and I know that if I'm not in my best space, then I'm not as useful as a therapist, as a teacher. So yeah, it's been a new. It's just everything is different. Everything is different. There's nothing about my business that looks the same. So
Right.
my studio, we closed the doors after spring break last March, and we
Hmm.
haven't opened them up yet because it has not felt like a benevolent or safe thing for us to hold classes. From a business perspective, it would help me immensely to have my studio open and still have classes
Right.
happening. We were having like 30 classes a week, but it's a small space. You can't
Hmm.
open windows. We do breath work, right? We're
Right.
breathing, I
Right.
just like I don't, it seems like a recipe for, spreading COVID. So I've made
That's
the
right.
hard decision to not open my studio back up. I'm still maintaining my space in the hopes that something will change, but I am also grateful that now I see that I can do my business online. And in
Hmm.
fact, when I taught yoga classes, I teach 3 classes a week. My studio could, at capacity, get maybe 28 students in for a class.
Hmm.
Now, the Saturday morning yoga class that I teach consistently has 150 people that show up for it.
Wow.
So even the people that can take a class from me, and they're from all over the country. I usually ask, where are people from? Alaska, New York, Colorado, Minnesota, Illinois,
Wow.
Iowa. So it's sort of like friends of friends have told people about me. And so my class sizes have just been exponentially expanding, which is really curious to me. But I think people are hungry for what I'm able to offer right now. So
They are.
I'm
Well,
showing up
obviously.
in a new way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're actually able to show up in an easier way for them, because if it was a
Yes.
live class, they
Agreed.
wouldn't be able to shoot down from Alaska to take a class, but now they can,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah,
And are you doing those via Zoom, Betsy, or is it a
I am.
webinar? Or okay.
It's a webinar. It's a webinar because there's so many people that attend that if it's more of a meeting, I mean, I would love to be able to see. What I miss is seeing people doing
Right.
yoga. Now I just see a
Hmm.
green light and myself.
Yes.
But the being able to manage people getting unmuted, and it's just too
Hmm.
much. So I do it as a webinar. Plus, a webinar
Certainly.
allows many more people to join.
Right. And back to
So
that comment that you made about how if you were in person, you could see 15 people, but now via Zoom, it's 10 because of that fatigue. Don't you think part of that is when you're counseling someone in person, and I know for me, when I'm coaching in person, you've got that connection. You can
yeah,
see and read their face and their body movements. And if you're trying to make a point or reach a point with your client, you can see that when you're right across the table from each other, but you
yeah.
can't necessarily see that over a video, a computer screen.
Yeah. I think I knew that I always worked very energetically with my clients,
Uh-huh.
being trained in yoga, we learn a lot about the energy field and the power of that. I actually have written a book on the chakra system, which is the ancient Indian system of these 7 sort of energy centers in the body. And I realize that that is missing when I'm doing Zoom, or it's still there, but it's harder to tap into. So, just like what you're talking about, the body language, the exchange, the relationship, it's
Yes.
just slightly different. But on the flip side, Lee, I do also know, I have several clients who have severe trauma or severe anxiety. And
Hmm.
so they often would cancel appointments because it was too
Oh,
much to get out the door and get to my office. Whereas
right.
now, they show up because they can stay in the comfort of their home. So, and even yoga students have told me that. They're like, I would get nervous coming into the studio. I didn't want to be in yoga pants and you right? Like, now they can do yoga in their pajamas and in the
Right.
comfort of their own home. So, despite how there are some challenges with our new world, I think that there are some benefits too, which is probably why there's 150 people showing up for yoga on Saturday
I,
mornings. They don't have to get in a car and go, right?
right. Right.
Turn on their Zoom.
Yes. And it's this new reality has definitely changed all of us, impacted all of us. Mostly for the good, I hope. And just a lot
Yeah,
of learning in that process on how this new reality is going to be. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's
yeah,
just different, you know?
it's different.
It
Yeah.
is different. So Betsy, tell me about, you've been in business for a long time. Tell me about some of the learnings. If someone new came up to you and said, Betsy, what's the one thing I need to know about owning my own business? What would you tell
Mhm.
them?
That's such a good question. Well, to be honest, I've never met you, but I would tell someone to find like a business coach because I didn't do that. And I think that I had some natural entrepreneurial characteristics, like
Mhm.
knowing what I know about my own personality. I'm willing to take risks. I think that I work best on my own. I'm a hard worker. I don't like someone above me telling me what I need to do. I know that I'll get it done on my own. There's a lot of sort of self motivation in me. So I think all of those personality characteristics set me up really well to be an entrepreneur. So I don't think I would have been, knowing what I know about myself now, I don't think I would have been as happy being employed by a big
Right.
institution.
Right.
So, but the business world and running a business, having a PhD in psychology, I got zero business class. And
Which is
even,
not uncommon. That's
all
right.
my training in psychology or yoga, I got zero business,
Right.
guidance. So it's been like a blind person sort of feeling my way through and meeting
Yes.
people along the way that have been helpful and have reading books and making mistakes. And and I still feel like I have so much to learn about business. I'm grateful that my businesses have been successful, but I'm not sure it's
Yes.
because I had a lot of business background. I think it's just been, probably some luck there. But
Yes.
I would tell people to, connect with a business person who can teach you some of the foundational things you need to have in place to
Right.
be successful.
Well, thank you for that, Betsy. This is not a paid
Yeah.
advertisement, by the way.
No, it's not. I've never met you, but and like a business coach would have been helpful for me when I started all of this 15 years ago.
We felt the same way too when we had our first business for 20 years. There were so many times that I wished I would have had someone I could speak with. And I was
Yeah.
unaware of business coaching at the time, but someone I could have spoken to that was not a loan officer from a bank or an attorney or a CPA, but just someone you can
Yeah,
bounce ideas off and get some clarity on some of the actions you're trying to take as a business owner.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
perfect.
Yeah.
So, Betsy, I've got your email address, Heartland Yoga. That's the place to go.
Yeah.
Reach
So they
out.
people can find if you want to join yoga with me, I teach
Yes.
Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday mornings at 9. And the Saturday morning class, actually, when COVID started, we started it as a free class, just
Okay.
as a way, like as service, as in yoga, we would use the word seva, like it's a way to give back, a way to help.
Yes.
And so I have maintained it as a free class just because I feel like it is helpful for people. And more than that, I actually think it's given people access to something that they might not have otherwise done. I
Uh-huh.
don't know as a business coach if you would recommend I keep doing it for free or not. I don't know.
We'll talk.
I'm still sitting with that. But so heartlandyoga.com is where you
Okay.
can go find the schedule. You just click on the class and then it'll send you a Zoom link
Good.
to get in with class with me. And then my personal website is Dr. Yoga Mama, MOMMA.
I love
And
that.
it,
I saw that. It's
thank you.
cool.
Yeah, it has it's got a lot of blog posts on it, but it's got all of my programs that I do. I do this 8-week Remind course. I do a 4-week course for the highly sensitive empath. I usually do that in the spring.
Hmm.
And then actually what I'm really excited about, this has been a long time in coming for me. And again, me sort of stepping into the online world has manifested this for me as well. But I'm starting a 5-month intensive training for mental health professionals, yoga teachers, coaches called Yoga for the Mind.
Good.
And it is sort of people get weekly lessons from me and practices on how to really what I've basically done in my career, which is integrate the fields of yoga, psychology, neuroscience, how they're all connected, what's the research behind it, and what are these really practical tools that therapists,
Mhm.
coaches, teachers can use with their clients. So that'll be a 5-month intensive training starting the first week in February.
Good.
So that's another thing that's coming down the pike for me, which I'm really excited about because I do feel like it's finally the coming together of all of my expertise in sort of this one more intensive program.
Love that. And how's the book coming along?
The book is 90% written. And I've
Okay.
been working on this book for, oh gosh, 8, 9 years. But with all I have to, I'll be totally honest with you. In this last year, there's been very little writing
Yeah.
because of sort of the learning curve of all the technology and being at home schooling my children. So I'm hoping in 2021 I'll finish it off, find a good publisher and get that out there.
That's excellent. That's great. Well, Betsy, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Lee.
Don't go away. All right, don't go away.
Okay, I
Hang on a
won't.
second. So this has been Business Basics with our special guest, Betsy with Heartland Yoga right here in Iowa City. My name is Lee Iben, and thank you all for joining us today.